and it's approximately 7:04 p.m. on April 8th, 2020, which is a Wednesday. And due to the COVID-19 outbreak and in conformance with the emergency order of the governor of Massachusetts banning public gatherings, the town of Dartmouth office building is closed. So as a preliminary matter, my name is Michael Kehoe. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission of Dartmouth. And I would like to confirm that all members and persons who are anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. And when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Richard Golan,
Yes.
Michael Riley,
Yes.
Alan Haru,
Yes.
Harbor Master Steve Mello,
Yes.
Mark Garrett,
Yes.
Steve Giosa,
Yes.
Patty Swearduck,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes, present.
Lindsay Rocha, sorry,
Yes, present.
Dave DeVignon,
Yes, present.
Paul Eaton, Kelly Wilbur,
Here.
Jamie Bissonette,
Present.
and Michael's iPad. Okay, so we do have a quorum. And I will go on to say, this meeting is being conducted remotely, and it's in accordance with Executive Order of March 12, 2020. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order superseded the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded to the public so that they can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment, and that's through the raising of the hand. And I'll recognize, and then the speaker will be unmuted. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by Zoom conference with login information posted on the Conservation Commission agenda located on the Conservation Commission portion of the town's website. This meeting is being recorded and the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants or viewers may be able to see and hear you, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. You have the option to turn off your video if you are participating via computer, and all participants should keep their microphones or phones muted. We're actually doing that unless recognized by the chair, and that's to reduce background noise and feedback. We have some meeting ground rules. So before we go to our first order of business, I want to cover those ground rules so that we can have an effective and clear conduct of the meeting and to ensure that accurate minutes are kept. The chair, that's myself, will recognize Conservation Commission staff for comment. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Wait until your name is called, and then I will recognize you and the speaker will be unmuted so you can talk. Please speak clearly and in a way that helps generate the minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. For items with public comment, after the applicant's representatives and members have spoken, I will recognize and afford public comment. I will first ask members of the public who wish to be heard to indicate their desire to be heard by raising their hand, and that's the raise hand function of Zoom, and I'll describe that in a moment. Anyone participating must identify themselves by name and with their address. Individuals who are present, please be careful and speak loudly and clearly so that we can hear you and that your comments can be put into the record. Finally, I'm going to take a vote at the conclusion of each matter, and the vote will be taken by a roll call vote. Now, the raise your hand function. During the meeting, you can click on the icon labeled participants. It's at the bottom center of the MAC screen. For me, it's a Mac or PC. And there's a list of participants which will pop up. You have to roll your cursor to the bottom of your screen to find it. At the bottom of the window on the right side of the screen, click the button labeled Raise Hand. The chair will unmute, or actually DCTV will unmute your microphone to allow you to talk. You can lower it by clicking the same button now labeled Lower Hand. So those are our ground rules. If anyone's unclear, I'm not going to repeat it. No, it's anyone want to try that function out, they're more than welcome to beforehand. Otherwise, we'll move on to the contents of the meeting.
On the iPad, Mike, where is that raise hand thing?
I think you have to, according to this, it was just on the PC and the Mac. They didn't say anything about an iPad.
I don't see it
But-
on it. I don't see it on my Mac either.
Yeah.
Neither do I. Well, actually, I don't either, to be candid. It's not on mine.
Mike, also, I don't see mine. I'm in the managed participants and I'm not seeing it.
I think everyone that's a co-host can unmute their own microphone, so it shouldn't,
Okay,
you shouldn't need to
Okay.
raise your hand. You should be able to unmute your own microphone.
Can we just physically raise our hand?
Yeah, maybe that'll do. I can see you.
Yeah.
Well, I can't see Kelly, but anyway. You can just tell me you're raising your hand. So, first order of business is to approve the minutes of the February 18, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Second is the approval of the field trip
What
report.
about all opposed? What kind of fucking thing is that?
What's that? Hello? Okay, the second is the approval of the field trip reports of February 18, 2020.
So moved.
second,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the third is to receive the minutes of March 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
So moved.
second,
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Aye.
All three of the administrative matters were, two of them were approved unanimously, and the third to receive was unanimous. From this point forward, I'm going to do a roll call vote for any of the other items. Okay? And the first is going to be to I'd entertain a motion to authorize our Environmental Affairs Coordinator to sign documents on behalf of the Dartmouth Conservation Commission after a majority vote of the commission has been entered.
So moved.
Have a second on that?
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. I'll go, I'm looking over here. Patty Swartuck first.
yes,
Okay, Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. So that passes unanimously. The second would be a vote to adopt the digital signature that is now allowed by Governor Baker's most recent executive order, so that documents do not have to be wet signed by the commissioners before recording.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Okay, roll call vote. Again, Patty Swartuck.
aye,
Okay, Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. That's a unanimous approval. And that will help us out enormously getting our work, once we get it done in terms of voting, to get it to the engineers for recording purposes. Okay, we're going to start with our field trip report. And the first is a continued field trip report. It was a request for determination of applicability for Robert and Jane Sylvia to confirm the wetland line on land located at map 23, lots 48-1 and 48-2 on Horse Neck Road.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Wait, I gotta do roll call vote. I forgot. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. So Mike, we've had the motion to waive the reading.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This request for determination for a wetland delineation verification. I've had some concerns about the plan, and I've been working with SciTech Engineering, the applicant's representative. I still have some questions about the plan, and I would like to request that this be continued for 2 weeks in order that I get a chance to meet with SciTech's surveyors and discuss the issues that I think I've identified with the plan.
And is that acceptable to SciTech?
This is Steve Giosa at SciTech. Yes, that's acceptable.
Okay, and the 2 week time frame as well is sufficient?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to continue this matter until our next meeting, which will be Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay, roll call vote. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Okay, that is continued. Our second field trip report is a request for determination of applicability for Josh Family Limited Partnership to confirm the wetland line on land located at map 42, lot 46. That's 339 Chase Road.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
And I'm going to go roll call. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Motion has been approved. Mike?
Yes, this request for determination is for a wetland delineation on Chase Road. And Mark and I have reviewed the delineation in the field. The delineation is accurate. We made a couple of adjustments. We did receive new plans, and so I recommend the issuance of a positive determination for the purposes of wetland delineation verification.
Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. That passes unanimously. The third is a request for determination of applicability for Scott Sherwood to install ground-mounted solar array on land located at map 28, lot 4, which is 107 Slades Corner Road.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Well, I'm sorry, I did it again. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Motion passes. Mike?
Yes, this request, Mr. Chair, is for the installation of some ground-mounted solar arrays at a single-family house on Slades Corner Road. Mark did a wetland delineation using a wetland site inspection and reviewed it in the field. I spoke with the applicants. The ground-mounted solar arrays are going in an existing lawn area. Then they're located about 85 feet or so away from the adjacent wetland. So it's pretty far away from the wetland. I don't anticipate any negative impact. Recommend a negative determination.
So moved.
Have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Going on to number 4, that's a request for determination of applicability for Paul and Cheryl Fournier to demolish an existing detached garage shed and construct a proposed house addition on land located at map 171, lot 49, which is 51 Sherbrooke Road.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this request for determination is for the demolition of a detached garage and a reconstruction and a minor improvement or enlargement of an existing house. It is located on the shore of Lake Nokichoke. There is a very little impact or very little increase in the amount of impervious. It's a relatively small project. I don't anticipate any negative impact and recommend a negative determination.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Number 5, it's a request for determination of applicability for Buzzards Bay National Estuary Program. They want to install elevation marker, in 4 PVC pipes to mark vegetation plots on land located at map 10, lot 6. That's 115 Barney's Joy Road.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Roll call vote. Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Mike?
This request is for the installation of an elevation marker and some PVC pipes to mark some vegetation plots. It's part of a salt marsh restoration project that's going to be occurring at Demarest Lloyd State Park on Barney's Joy Road. This is a very limited, very small project. It's a good one, and I recommend the issuance of a negative determination.
So moved.
Second.
Not all in favor. Patty Swarda,
Yes.
okay, Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joe Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Mike Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Going on to number 6, it's a request for an extension on the order of conditions for DEP file 15-529, that's 15-529 for Davison Trip at map 117, lot 7, that's 1 Bridge Street.
This re-
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Okay, Mike.
This request for an extension permit is from Davison Trip. It's for the construction of docks and the seawall at Davison Trip. As you can see, it's a very old filing, number 529. Davison Trip has been very diligent over the years in requesting extension permits, and they want to keep their order open in order to be able to maintain what they've got. It's been a good project. We haven't had any problems with Davison Trip, so I would recommend the issuance of a 5-year extension permit.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Passes unanimously. Number 7 is a request for an extension on the order of conditions for DEP file 15-2362 for Robert Mello at map 172, lot 21 on Rhode Island Avenue.
Make a motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. That passes unanimously.
This request, Mr. Chair, is for an extension, 3-year extension permit for a project which was a driveway project on Rhode Island Ave. There has been no work commenced on this project. The center line of the road has been staked. Went out to take a look at the site, and there's no problem with this. So I recommend the issuance of a 3-year extension permit.
So moved.
Second.
Patty Swarda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes. Yes.
Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. So passed. Unanimous. Number 8, the request for a certificate of compliance for DEP file 15-2353 for Stephen and Kathleen Meeker. That's at map 96, lot 13 and 8 Washburn Lane.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Patty Swearduck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Mike?
This request, Mr. Chair, for certificate of compliance was for some vegetation clearing. It was actually an after-the-fact filing, but the work has been done in compliance with the order of conditions, and I recommend the issuance of a certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Okay, we have
Second.
Patty Swearduck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. We have number 9, a request for a partial certificate of compliance for DEP file 15-715 for Brian Glover PC. It's at map 60, lot 20, that's 3 Nicole Megan Way.
This request, Mr. Chair, for the partial certificate of compliance, this is a single-family house lot in a subdivision. There is still an old, as you can see by the number, there's an old order of conditions that is still attached to the deed. So this is a partial certificate of compliance request to clear the deed of that cloud. I took a ride by. There's no problems with the site, so I recommend the issuance of a partial certificate of compliance.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Patty Swearduck, Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. We're moving on to page 2. And number 10 is a request for a partial certificate of compliance for DEP file 15-1130, Bradley and Patricia Howes at map 129, lot 22, that's 31 Hidden Bay Drive.
This request, Mr. Chair, is similar to the last one. It's a partial certificate of compliance request from an old order. There's a sale, and the original order for construction of the Hidden Bay condo complex showed up. And so there's no problems with the site. It's been closed for a long time. So I recommend the issuance of a partial certificate of compliance.
So moved.
The second, on that? Patty Swearduck?
Aye.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. We're now moving on to our public hearing portion. And the first is a continued public hearing, DEP file 15-2487, a notice of intent for Peter Vieira, who wishes to restore the bordering vegetated wetlands on land located at map 27, lot 21 through 34. That's 3 Slades Farm Lane.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Patty Swearduck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke, Kelly Wilbur.
Yes.
Joe, can you unmute your mic, please?
I got him.
Okay. He's still muted. There you go.
There.
Very good.
I got
Can
him.
you, Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. That passes unanimously. Who's here on behalf of the applicant, Peter Vieira?
Mr. Chair, this is a restoration notice of intent. It was an after-the-fact notice of intent. It's been continued a couple of times, and we made some adjustments. Mark and I met out in the field with a wetland consultant. We made some adjustments to the wetland delineation, showing more delineation than what was originally shown, more wetland than what was originally shown. We continued it last time because we needed a new plan, and the new plan came in, but it didn't have the 5-day review time. We have the new plan at this point, and it is what we found in the field. And so I think the commission can close this at this point. There was no restoration required or recommended in the last couple of public hearings. So I think it's in good shape at this point.
Thank you.
The chairman, just for the record, Mike, this was a violation that is being repaired, just for the commission's record on this. I know it's gone on a long time, but just to keep it in the proper context.
Okay. And I guess for my purposes, I'll ask any commissioner who wants to be heard to kind of raise their hand somehow. Kelly, you say you're raising your hand. Patty?
I'd like to ask, is there a time limit on this as to when this work will be done? Or there's really no work to be done, but is that correct? There's nothing that's going to be done? We're just going to let it grow back?
That was a discussion that occurred at the last couple of hearings on this. Mark and I looked at it, and I think we both agreed that the amount of cutting that had been done, it would be, I think, potentially more disruptive to the wetland to require plantings than to just let it grow back. It's already started, I think, to grow back, and so it's not as though the commission was requiring any plantings and would need a time frame for those to be completed because of summer weather. And so I don't think that a time frame is really necessary on this point. We've got a snapshot of will be a recorded plan of the site. And so that shows where the wetland is, and that will be recorded.
Do I have to raise my hand to say something?
Yes.
Are we going to take a look at this site in a year from now?
Oh, we'll definitely be looking at the site.
Okay.
And the neighbors will too.
And so it will be on our schedule to look at this site?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Patty, we're back and forth on that, on Slade's Corner Road. We glance in constantly. It's right on, can't miss it.
Right.
Yes, we're
wanna
by
make-
it a lot.
Just want to make sure it's put on a schedule.
I can guarantee if he goes in there and does any more, we're going to get some phone calls real quick.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioner that wishes to be heard? Questions? Anyone in the public who's participating who wants to be heard on this? No, hearing none, seeing none. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Patty Swardick?
Sorry, did you?
Oh, we're just doing a roll call vote. Patty Swardick.
Yes.
Okay. Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. We're working out the kinks, guys.
Sorry.
All right. Number 2, it's a continued public hearing, DEP file 15-2491, notice of intent for Brian Storer, Winsong LLC, proposing a 5-lot open space residential development on land located at map 125, lots 19, 19-1 through 19-7, and that's off of Jason Drive.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Roll call vote, Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. The applicant has requested a continuance. It didn't say till when, so I'm assuming it's for our next public hearing. So I'll entertain a motion to continue until Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously. Number 3.
Chairman, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, point of order, Mike. I want to go back to Vieira for a second. We voted to close the public hearing. Did we vote or issue an order of conditions?
No.
No, we didn't. That's a good point, Mark.
I am awake.
Well, I'm glad someone is. I
Glad you
was-
paid attention, Mark.
So we closed the public hearing. Now we have to take a vote. So we're going to move backwards to the first one because we closed the public hearing and didn't take a vote. So commissioners, what is your pleasure on the Vieira matter, which was number 1 on the agenda?
Make a motion for a standard order of condition according to the plan submitted?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Thank you, Mark. Kudos.
Welcome.
Okay. So number 3 on our agenda is a continued public hearing. It's DEP file 15-2501, a notice of intent for Michael Panagakis, who wishes to demolish an existing structure and construct a new commercial building with associated parking, drainage, and utilities on land located at map 167, lot 55. That's at 385 State Road.
Make a motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. On behalf of the applicant,
On behalf of the applicant, Stephen Giosa with SciTech Engineering, representing Mr. Panagakis this evening. To refresh the commissioner's memories on this project, this is a small commercial parcel on the south side of Route 6 across from the Olive Garden. On basically the southeast corner of Route 6 and Speaker Street. Former farm stand on the property, single-family residential house, a garage. So a previously developed piece, and we are proposing a small commercial building and associated parking lot. As the commission members may recall, we've had a number of reviews of this project. We met with Mike, I think, at one time, and we have a plan that was revised prior to the last meeting being back on, I think, March 2nd. At that time, we did present the new information to the commission, which was some minor details, some soil data results that were generated at the request of the DPW. The commission voted to continue the hearing to the next scheduled meeting to allow the DPW a little bit additional time to complete their review. We've now, about 5 weeks later, we haven't seen any additional comments on this particular project yet. I do have a plan on my computer. If you do want to see that, I can try and share the screen with you. But basically, we, I think, had all the technical details worked out, and it was really just a question of giving the DPW a little bit more time. But I don't think there were any major issues remaining. The applicant did agree at the request of Mike O'Reilly and Mark Garrett to do some stream invasive species cleaning and restoration, and the applicant did agree to do that beyond the normal scope of work for the project. So we're hoping tonight we're in a position to close the hearing if the commission is comfortable and be able to proceed with the project.
Steve, Mike Kehoe speaking. Do you happen to know what the issues were that DPW was concerned with, even though you didn't get a letter?
Yeah, there were a couple of minor, two remaining items in their last comment letter. One was soil evaluation data, which we did complete. They were witnessed by the Board of Health. The test pits were completed in the vicinity of the proposed drainage recharge and storage system. That information is now on the plan. It was on the plan back on the March meeting. And it does demonstrate that our system is at least 2 feet above the water table, and the system would be in compliance with the applicable stormwater standards. The second comment they made had to do with the recharge units that we were proposing. They had checked with the manufacturer. The manufacturer made a slight modification to the type of unit. They were basically a little bit longer than the type we were specifying. We have changed the designation. It just changed the designation of the unit from a 150 HD unit to a 150 XL HD unit, which the XL just stood for extra long, a lot more length to the unit. We spoke to the manufacturer. We did not modify our design for those units. We basically said we're going to use the XL units, which are what the DPW properly referenced. And The manufacturer says they can just be cut to the design specifications and placed in position to create the size system that we have designed for. So that was the only other comment. They also, again, made reference to the fact that the project is subject to Mass DOT review. We cannot proceed to DOT without an order of conditions. So that issue can't get resolved until you folks make a determination, the project gets approved, and we're able to move on to the DOT with a copy of your order that would go in with our application. Those are the only items that were outstanding in the last DPW letter that was dated March 6th.
Thank you, Steve. Mike, I'd be interested in your comments. I think Steve gave a pretty thorough synopsis of what's transpired and also what some of DEP's comments were, but I'd like to hear from you as well.
I think that this is a bit of a victim of the shutdown. The one thing that we have been waiting for was a final comment letter from DPW, as Mr. Giosa mentioned. And we have not received that final comment letter yet, but I fully expected to get that comment letter before this meeting. But with the shutdown and DPW being closed, we were just not able to really pull it off. I think the issues were detail oriented that do now appear on the final plan that we received, and obviously we've had plenty of time to review that plan.
Mike, are you satisfied that the plan that's currently, the most recent iteration that's currently in the office meets the requirements for conservation?
I am.
Any commissioner have? Patty?
Is the stream invasive species cleaning and restoration, are those things to be added as an added condition, or are they already in the plan?
They're on the plan.
They're on the plan? Okay.
Yep.
Any other commissioner have any questions of Mr. Giosa? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this? Again, seeing none and hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swerdick,
Yes.
Richard Dolan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. And this time I'm not going to forget to ask you to vote on the actual request. So,
Don't let you, Michael.
At this point, commissioners, what's your pleasure on the request of Mr. Panagakis?
Motion for a standard order of conditions according to the plan submitted.
Second.
Second.
Did somebody say something? Okay, we got a second. Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swerdick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, passes unanimously.
Very good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have number 4. It's a public hearing. It's DEP file 15-2508. It's a notice of intent for George S. and Penelope R. Bailey, who wish to construct a single-family house on land located at map 79, lots 13 and 14 on Pine Island Road.
The motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swerdick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. And on behalf of the applicants. You're muted. There you go.
Good now?
You're good now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Alan Haru, Haru Engineering LLC. I'm a professional civil engineer. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Commissioners Mike O'Reilly, Mark Garrett, Lindsay, for all your work and to make this meeting happen. For this public hearing, I'm presenting a subsurface sewage disposal system plan, a site plan dated February 25th, 2020 for a single-family house on Pine Island Road, Plat 79, Lot 13 and 14, on behalf of George and Penelope Bailey. The limit of wetlands shown on the plan was delineated by Brandon Phaneuf of Ecosystem Solutions and verified by Mark Garrett, Conservation Agent with a wetland site inspection dated November 19th, 2018. The work within the buffer zone to wetland includes the construction of the house, a front-loaded garage, driveway, a well and water pipe into the house, and grading. An erosion control barrier is proposed around the work area, 10 to 45 feet away from the wetland. And we respectfully request that the commission vote to issue an order of conditions for this project. The file number, as you mentioned, is 15-2508. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Mike, have you had an opportunity to review the application and the plan? And if so,
Yes, I have, Mr. Chair. First of all, can you see my screen? I put
yes, I see the plan on the screen
the
now.
plans up on the screen? Okay. Yeah, Mark and I had a chance to review it. Mark looked at the wetland delineation prior, and the wetland delineation was fine. We went out to the site and we took a look at the site. It's a pretty standard single-family house in the buffer zone. It's not within the riverfront area. There is a stream that's about 250, 300 feet away, a perennial stream, but it's not within the riverfront area. So it's strictly a buffer zone only project. You can see the setback from the wetland is a little tight in one area, but that's a function, I think, of the configuration of the lot. So it's a pretty standard single-family house. I think if they comply with the plan, they should be in good shape.
Okay. Any commissioner have any question or comment that they'd like Mr. Haru to address? I don't see any. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to be heard on this particular application? I don't see any or hear any, so I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swerda,
yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Public hearing is closed. What's your pleasure on this application?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions according to the plan submitted.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swerda,
Aye. Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 5. It's a public hearing, DEP file 15-2509. It's a notice of intent for Per Lofberg, who proposes selective clearing and removal of nuisance vegetation and installation of a yard inlet and drain pipe in the buffer zone on land located at map 108, lots 1, 2, and 3 on 36 and 39 Elm Street.
Motion to waive reading.
A second.
Second.
Roll call vote. Patty Swerda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. And on behalf of the applicant.
For the record, my name is Alan Haru. And for this public hearing, I'm presenting a project for Per Lofberg, who owns Plat 108, lots 1, 2, and 3 on Ricketson's Point at the southerly end of Elm Street in Padenaro. The record plan is entitled Site Plan Showing Selective Clearing and Drainage Improvements, dated February 25th, 2020. We propose selective clearing and removal of nuisance vegetation in the buffer zone to wetland and a coastal dune. The wetland resource areas were delineated by David Pichette, wetland consultant. Mr. Pichette prepared a narrative for buffer zone vegetation management at Ricketson's Point, Dartmouth, Mass., also dated February 25th, 2020. This narrative describes the proposed selective clearing work in 3 separate areas. First, east of house number 39 Elm Street, in the buffer zone to wetland near Ricketson's Pond. Second, south of the same house, number 39 Elm Street, in the buffer zone to a coastal dune and a small isolated wetland along Buzzards Bay. And the third area is west of house number 636 Elm Street, in the buffer zone to wetland along Padenarum Harbor. In addition, we propose to install a small yard inlet and pipe to drain a low area along Elm Street, essentially the driveway into the property, which floods periodically, mostly during the spring and winter time. All of the proposed work for this project is within land subject to coastal storm flowage, flood zones. We respectfully request that the commission vote to issue an order of conditions for this project. Again, the file number is SE 15-2509. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Mike, have you had an opportunity, or Mark, to review this application? And do you have any comments that you want us to?
Yes, we did. We walked the site actually with Mr. Haru and with the wetland consultant, Dave Pritchett, and we reviewed all of the areas where there is proposed vegetation removal. There are quite a few invasive species in the site, and this proposal is to remove those invasive species. And the drain is a small drain that's just going to facilitate some drainage on the driveway. And so I am a proponent of getting rid of invasive vegetation whenever we can. And so I have no problem with the project. By the way, I tried to display the plan, and I can't quite get the plan to display properly, so I'm not quite sure why. But I'm okay with the project.
Okay. Anyone in the audience?
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it goes.
There it is.
Anyone in the audience wants to be heard? I don't see any hands raised. Any commissioner that has any question?
Where are the drainage pipes draining into?
The yard inlet is right alongside Elm Street, which is essentially the driveway into the property at the upper left part of the plan. Just a little tiny 24-inch diameter. It's actually a well tile, so it won't be more than a couple feet deep and a couple feet in diameter, with a small grate on it, and it would only drain just a grass area. So there's nothing, mostly it's just a grass area that happens to be a little bit of a depression on the, what would be the northerly side of Elm Street. And the pipe just runs straight under the Elm Street, which is only about 10 feet wide at that point, and it would just discharge into a little grass swale,
Okay.
And then down through the buffer zone, approximately 50 feet into the wetland, but it's mostly just rainwater.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions, either a commissioner or anyone in the audience?
Out of curiosity, when I zoomed in on the plan on my end, did you see the zoom?
Yes.
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Yep, that was very helpful. I was following along on what I printed out, and it was much tinier than that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so seeing no hands raised, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. Roll call vote. Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Now that we've closed the public hearing, commissioners, what is your pleasure on Mr. Lofberg's application?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions according to the plan submitted.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. That is unanimous. It passes. Going now on to number 6 on our public hearings, and that's public hearing DEP file 15-2511, a notice of intent for Ryan Pena, who proposes to raise the existing buildings on site and construct a single-family dwelling with associated driveway, grading, and utilities on land located at map 187, lots 10 and 11, East Lakeside Avenue.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Kent?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swardick,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Okay, and on behalf of the applicant, we have,
Jamie Bissonette from Zenith Consulting Engineers. Good evening. Mike, is it okay if I put up my presentation plan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent.
Yeah, I have it too, but
I colored one up after our conversation. Here we go. All right. So what we're looking to do here is raise an existing building and construct a single family dwelling. On site, we're looking to have associated driveway coming in on the side, roof infiltration, a small deck in the backyard. And the site would be serviced by municipal water and sewer. We did a test pit out on site, found very favorable sandy soils. So the infiltration for the roof will be fantastic. Water table was not an issue in our test pit. On the plan that we're showing, the yellow lines are flood zones. We're out of the flood zone where we're proposing our work. But the entire building, the entire lot is within the 100-foot buffer of the BVW and of the pond. And so we're before you tonight seeking permission to construct this house with associated utilities and driveway, and be happy to answer any questions you have.
thank you. Before we get to any questions of the audience or the commissioner, I would like to find out, Mike and Mark, if you've had a chance to review this application and what are your comments on it?
yes, we did, Mr. Chair. Mark and I both went out and we reviewed the site. As Mr. Bissonette said, there's a small seasonal cottage on the property now. Which is proposed to be replaced, with this newer house. I do have one question, or two rather. The driveway, what's the surface of the driveway proposed to be? And the second question is, want to make sure that any runoff does not enter onto any other abutters' properties.
Sure, the runoff I can handle very easily. We've swaled on both sides of the driveway and on the other side of the house to aim back towards the pond. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor on the
I can.
screen.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. So over on this side of the driveway, you'll see that we have a swale going in this direction with some riprap at the end to handle the grading to get the swale to work. And there's also going to be a row of hedges, shrubs over on the side here. They'll be planted in a little bit of a mound to help alleviate that water. On this side, running around the front to the back, that's a nice, easy swale for us to get the majority of the water that way. But all of the water is designed to be pitched around the house towards the pond as it's going now. The question of the driveway surface, I believe the intention of the driveway surface was to be paved. I know that the road out in front of it is gravel. I'm not sure that my client is dead set on paving the driveway, but I believe that was the intention.
It would seem to me it might be best if it were gravel. But anyway, Mike, any other comments on that?
No, I just wanted to mention that I did get a phone call from the neighbors who were the neighbor to the north, who was concerned about the driveway, surface and what effect that the driveway and the grading might have on their property. So that's the reason that I wanted that further explained.
Mr. Bissonette, just a question. If it were gravel, wouldn't that assist the neighbor in having even less possible sheet flow off the paved area?
I mean, anytime you go from a permeable to an impermeable, there'll be more runoff. That being said, with the swale and the small size of the lot and the driveway, I don't think there'll be a significant amount of runoff either way. The swale should easily be able to handle it.
Okay. Well, it is a fairly tight lot, and I'm a little concerned about, the neighbor having a problem down the road. So I think anything that can be done, my personal opinion is anything that can be done to reduce, even if it may not be necessary due to the swale, but to reduce and alleviate that, I think should be seriously considered, particularly since it really wouldn't have a negative impact on being able to access the property. But I entertain any commissioners' questions. Mr. Bissonnette? See any? Is there anyone in the audience that wants to be heard on this particular application? Don't hear or see any. So I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Have a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swartuck,
yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. So the public meeting is closed. Commissioners, what is your pleasure on this application?
Make a motion for a standard order of conditions according to the plan submitted.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bissonnette.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Number 7, it's a public hearing, DEP file 15-2510. It's a notice of intent for Jason and Gisela Hutchins, who want to construct a timber pier on land located at map 107, lot 19 on Smith Neck Road.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Roll call vote. Patty Swartuck,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. And on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening. On behalf of the applicant, Dave DeVignan, from Schneider, DeVignan, and Leone. Did you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Yep, we got you.
Sure, I'm not a techie guy. Would you like me to proceed with the?
Please do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we're proposing this evening, we have a plan before you for the construction of a pile-supported timber pier as an accessory use to a single-family dwelling, which is actually across the street, 17 West Smith Road. The here is there an echo?
No.
Okay.
I think that might have been background noise.
Sorry about that. So the pier is 4 foot wide by 190 feet, 94 feet long. It has a multi-float system at the end of the pier. There's also a proposed swim ladder at the end of the pier to provide access for swimming. The site is a really small site, 0.1 acres in size. It's located across the street from 17 West Smith Neck Road, but it's located on Smith Neck Road. The pier was driven, the length of the pier was driven primarily by the outcropping of rocks throughout the site. We actually delineated that. That's cross-hatched on the plan. It pushed the end of the facility past the rocks where the boat could come in. It puts us in about 3.5 to 4.4 feet of water. There's a fork contour running right through the float system at the end. The pier would be pile supported. We're showing 12-inch timber piles, 12 feet on center. There was an eelgrass study done by a biologist, and there were no eelgrass beds found in the area. We've received a DEP file number, and primarily the comments was that we need to get a Chapter 91 waterways license, which we have filed for. We received an email from the Division of Marine Fisheries, and they basically had no comments on the project. We've also received correspondence from the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, and they've determined that the project would not be a take or would not adversely affect any resource area habitat of state protected rare wildlife species. A couple of points I'd like to make is, although the pier is somewhat lengthy, 194 feet, and that's to the end of a swim ladder that we have, which we're proposing at the very end of the pier. We are approximately 44 feet inland from a pier to the south. The float piles for that pier system are approximately 262 feet from the edge of Smith Neck Road, and our project's about 218 feet from Smith Neck Road. I have spoken with my client about moving the swim ladder to the south of the pier, which would actually bring it in another 10 feet closer to the shoreline. We did receive a memorandum from the harbor master, and I talked with Mike about putting a float marker out at the end of the system of the structure so that we know, everybody could see where it is in relation to other moorings in the area. We intend to do that, which would be why we'd be requesting a continuance, number one. We're looking at possibly doing that next Tuesday or Thursday. Those dates were given to me by my surveyor based upon weather conditions and the tide events. So we'll contact your office and let you know when that has happened. We'll also let the harbor master know as well. While we're doing that, what we'll do is also locate moorings, the nearest moorings to that float that we'll put out there. And we'll put that on the plan so that everybody can, the harbor master will understand where we are in relation to other moorings. I know that's a concern. The other concern raised in the harbor master letter was the access provided under the pier, or whether we're blocking access for shell fishing. The pier is designed so that at high tide we'll have a 5-foot separation from the bottom of the stringer to the grade, and that increases to 8 feet by the time you get out to mean low water. I think the distance between mean low water and mean high water, it's about a 32-foot stretch. So we have somewhere between 5 to 8 feet for people to walk under. The area is very, very rocky, so we didn't anticipate much boating that would occur along the shoreline, which is why the pier is stretched out into the waterway at that distance. Most of the construction activity would occur using a barge, a crane set on the barge. We're proposing to actually install the first leg of the pier from land. We're proposing any construction storage of equipment or materials to be across the street in the lawn area that the applicant owns. And it's possible there may be police details that may be required. And if that's the case, they'll be provided. So that's the gist of the project. Be happy to answer any questions. But like I said from the beginning, we would expect a continuance to the next meeting for setting that flotation point at the end of the pier, and possibly locating. We're going to try and locate the moorings that are closest to the pier.
Thank you, David. Before I ask Mike and Mark for their comments, I just have a quick question. Harbor Master had a pretty detailed memo, and one of his other concerns, which maybe I missed it, I didn't hear addressed, was his concerns regarding the shellfish beds and how this might impact that. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, typically in proposals where there are mapped shellfish beds or utilized shellfish beds, we propose to two options. One, either to, under his supervision, remove any shellfish within the construction area and relocate that during the construction period, and or provide seed stock monies for mitigation matters.
Thank you. Mike, have you or Mark had an opportunity to review this proposal? And if so, your comments would be welcome.
Yes, we have. I went out Monday afternoon, and I took a look at the site. There's no question that this is a pretty extensive dock. It's very long, and it extends with a swim ladder And it also has a fairly large and elaborate docking system or a mooring system with floats. So it's very definitely a pretty extensive structure. And so one question that I do have is there are docks and pier construction standards for that are specified by DEP. Does this dock comply with the docks and piers construction standards?
Can you say that in English, please?
The docks and pier construction standards for that DEP has.
I'm sorry, Mike. There is one standard we do not comply with, and that is the recommended spacing between the piles. They recommend a 20-to-1 ratio, meaning if your pile diameter is 1 foot, they recommend a 20-foot spacing.
Right.
But we already know from some test borings that we don't have the optimum ground conditions, if you will. And some of these pilings will not be to the penetration that we would like. So we're proposing 12 feet on center to make sure that we can keep this thing in the ground the way we're supposed to.
So more piles than what would have been normally.
That's correct. If we did the 20 foot on center, our concern is that if we actually hit any one of the sections, we didn't adequately get the penetration, we'd be in trouble. And we wouldn't want that to happen during the midpoint of construction.
There is also a wetland located across the street. Would there be, where would equipment storage be, occur? There's a lot of times you will have equipment storage. Is there a laydown area proposed for, any temporary storage of equipment?
Yes, there's a crosshatched area in the lawn area. South of the wetlands, we have erosion control shown. It's actually in an area where there's an existing opening that you can access to the lawn from the road. And that would only be for the landward 50 feet of pier. And it's actually the crosshatched area on the plan. That was the same area that we showed for the proposed reconstruction of the seawall. That project was approved under prior filing.
And that's the crosshatch area in this area?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, the letter that we received from the harbor master was pretty extensive, and I think he has some valid points. And I know that Steve is on the line here, Steve Mello, the harbor master. I don't know if Steve wanted to jump in at all.
Thank you, Mike. I think my letter was pretty specific as to this being within the sole area designated for non-commercial recreational harvesting. There's been some extensive work done over the past decade to fill the area up with seed, clean, juvenile seed, so that it would keep the recreational activity alive. My noted concern with having an engineer find the moorings is the float is not the mooring. I stress this with boaters. I have to stress it with everybody. The mooring is a specific anchor in the center of a swing circle, which we have GPS coordinates for. So rather than have a vested interest determine where my moorings, if you can call them my moorings, I'm responsible for them. I'd rather have the coordinates provided to me for each point on the seaward end of the structure, and I can calculate the swing circle. I can calculate the distance to the central anchor point for the mooring swing circle and provide those back. I don't mind if they do it on their own, but when you look at a float, the scope for that mooring could be paid out in the opposite direction from where it needs to be.
But you have GPS coordinates for the center, for the actual mooring itself.
We require and do maintain GPS coordinates for the center point of each mooring. We also have the data for the scope, which would be the length of bottom chain, top chain, the pennant that attaches rope, if you will, to the bow of the boat, plus the length of the boat that goes on that mooring. That complete picture provides what we call the watch circle or swing circle for each mooring.
There have been other docks in the past that you have provided that information, and that swing circle was shown on the plan. It probably is a good idea to have that shown on this plan. Otherwise, we won't be able to really get a clear indication of any potential impact on navigation.
Yeah, I can provide those numbers if I know the relative geographic position of the end of the pier. I can then figure out which moorings are going to be within any range of that pier.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
You may.
Mr. Mello, are you aware that there are coordinates on the plan that we provided?
For the end of the pier, I haven't seen them. I'm not sure if I missed that or if they just weren't clear, but the GPS coordinates are on the plan.
Yes, if Mike could scroll, keep going to the right. You're almost there. We have you should be able to see the coordinates, plan view detail.
Okay.
And we have each corner of the floats and the end of the swim ladder. To the right, we have latitude, longitude.
Yep, I do see that now. I'll work on that.
If you could
Mike Kehoe speaking. Steve, if I may, is that going to be enough information for you, or is there anything else you're going to need from Mr. Davignon in order for you to do your calculations?
No, from those coordinates, I can plot the distance from the center of each mooring circle and from the edge of each watch circle to those coordinates.
Okay. And what is, if I heard Mr. Davignon correctly, they're hoping sometime in the upcoming week to be able to put that float out there so that you can take a look at it. What is your week going to be like so that you could actually participate in that?
Once they're out there, I'll take a ride in the boat. It's weather permitting, and I can go out in almost any weather. I'll be able to do that after I'm notified they're in place. I'll go out and take pictures and take a view.
Great. Thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Garrett, question for David. David, I know you said that your spacing is a little tighter on the pilings due to depth of penetration or the restrictions thereof. This is an incredibly exposed area to a southeast fetch, which is where Dartmouth receives a lot of its storm surge from. Is this pier adequate to sustain the kind of storms that we get, either the nor'easter, which propagates a southeast wind in the beginning, or hurricanes? We had a pier, I believe it was the Wayner Pier, get blown into the shoreline a couple of years ago from a storm, and I'm a little concerned about that, given that we're re-upping our MVP report and hazard management plans. Can you speak to that?
Well, we're proposing 12 feet on center versus 20 foot, which is the recommended distance. We're also proposing a batter pile. So the piles will be put in on a 7.5, 8 degree angle, which would further help any uplift against uplift. If we don't get the penetration that we ultimately would like to see, we would install helical anchors to further make sure it doesn't move. And we would consider making removable decking as a part of the project as well, which we did for a pier significantly southerly of this one for George Gebeline. Every year the deck planks are taken out, the entire deck sections. So you're left with a skeleton out there to survive the winter storms.
Thank you.
Mike O'Reilly here. What are the piles? What type of piles are they?
Southern yellow pine, standard pressure treated.
Okay.
Any other questions? We're going to be continuing anyway, but I figure if there's anybody out there that has questions or comments, although you can be heard at the continuation. If you're there tonight and you have questions, please feel free to ask them. I just need your name and address.
I have a question.
Sure, Patty.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the shellfishing area there and how this might impact the shellfishing area. I'd like to hear from Steve Mello about that.
Okay, certainly. This is in the area known as the Family Beach. And just a short history on that, going back decades, and I can't give an exact time, the town has been requested or required to set aside a certain area of town waters for the sole purpose of recreational harvesting, excluding commercial digging and commercial digging techniques. This has always been known as Family Beach or the recreational harvest area. It's easily accessed by car along Smith Neck Road. The shellfish harvesters are able to walk along the shoreline all the way up to Knowles Pier, which is the terminus or the southern end of Family Beach. This structure, which crosses the sandbar, which is part of the Family Beach, is cutting into that area. Now, I know there are elevations listed and people are going to be able to walk under the pier and they're not going to be chased away with a stick by the owner. And I'm sure that the state is going to require that there be postings on the shoreline about the right to pass. It's still an obstruction. It still consumes with cyanide-filled, pressure-treated timbers a good portion of the area that people have traditionally harvested in. I've concentrated in this area because with the flow of the current in on southerlies, seed that I put in this area is ultimately carried along the entire beach, the sandbar, and we proceed from that area north to the causeway, where you were sent pictures today of a closure which lies within only 150 feet of that causeway. Everything south of that 150-foot mark where those signs are remains open in a conditionally approved status by the State Marine Fisheries. So this is a major structure with a large footprint on the seaward end of it, which will, as floats do, obstruct the harvesting of shellfish, at least on that end, if not under the pier itself.
Yeah, Mike Kehoe speaking. That is a concern of mine as well. I think the harbor master said it very well. So during the time for continuance, David, I for one would like to see more information on just that, the impact this is going to have, and what, if any, mitigation measures can be done that are effective, because I think that the town has done a lot to develop that into a recreational shellfish harvesting area. And I really wouldn't want to see that go to waste. Personally, that's my feeling. But so I think the harbor master is asking and directing us to ask these questions, and I think they're legitimate.
Are there any suggestions?
Patty? I'm sorry, so.
I too, I would mirror that comment, Mike. I have great reservations about impacting this Family Beach shellfishing area that's been here so long. I also have, I know that Steve Mello is going to be coming with some data on the moorings, but my understanding is that there may be issues there. And so I have two reservations about this application.
Okay, now Dave, you can add, you were talking, but I wanted to recognize Patty, so you can go right ahead, David.
I was just going to ask, are there any suggestions that that Mr. Mello would have regarding changing the design in any way that that I could take back to my client.
Well, I'd love to design and plan this for you, but I can't do that. I can tell you where the pitfalls are and what not to step in. Just because you can build a pier doesn't mean that you should, or at least not in this area, or maybe not to the length that it's being proposed. I can come up with alternatives, but in past history, those are disregarded. So I point out where the issues are and let the experts come up with the solutions that they're trained to do. I'm sure DMF is going to note that this is an area for quahog and other shellfish. And as far as a quantity, they may send a biologist down to do a quantitative analysis of the stock. But, you know, you can plant seed somewhere else and push people away from this area, but that's a temporary solution in my mind.
Can I comment, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you may.
I share the concerns, particularly about shell fishing. One of the things that really concerns me is the loss in square footage, basically, from the rather extensive float system, that is being proposed. And and anytime you have those types of the floats, I think it might affect shellfish propagation. So to me, it's the overall size. The overall size of this seems excessive and has a potential for adversely affecting, the potential shellfish area. So I kind of mirror the concerns of the harbor master and Ms. Swearduck.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard tonight? Obviously, this will be continued, so there'll be another opportunity. But if you have questions tonight or comments tonight, and
Yeah, I have a comment, Mike.
please go right ahead.
Okay, I'm just trying to, in my mind, visualize this. 194 feet is roughly a little bit more than half of a football field, as I recall. Correct?
Last I checked, I think you're right.
The area of those floats, and my eyes weren't as good as they used to be. It's almost the dimension of the small Cape house. That end part of the pier. If you look at the dimensions of that, if you draw the whole square, am I right or am I off here? Yeah, that area there of the floats. If you've got two long floats, and then you've got one float in the middle, then you've got a, I guess, an intermediate float that goes to those three floats. So you've got 8 feet wide on one float. You've got 14 feet long on the other one and another 8 feet. So that's 30 feet, roughly 30 by what, 16? That's a small house. No, I agree. This is covering a hell of a lot of area.
I would agree with that.
If the town has had this area for so long, it's been seeded, and now to come in and basically build a Berlin Wall across the whole thing, I don't know. It's just my opinion.
I would. Can I say something, or do I have to raise my hand every time?
Well, you probably just should so that we could recognize you, but I recognize you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the area is just huge for this this group of floats and gangway. It just seems outrageously large. But my concern is more for the shell fishing area that has been there for so long, and the impact that it would have on this, as I said before, and also and of course we haven't heard yet from. I look forward to hearing from Mr. Mello about the moorings that are nearby, that may be nearby. I don't know where they are. I know he'll put them on the plan for us for next time. But I do have some grave concerns about the impact on the shellfishing area.
Anyone else that wants to be heard?
Mr. Chairman, Mark
Yes.
Garrett, yeah, I'm going to concur on, I certainly wait to see the mooring layout from Mr. Mello. But as a trained shellfish biologist, this will be disruptive to the aerial habitat that's there. And from what I've heard, I don't know the history as well as some, the town has made a significant investment in that, in shellfish for the recreational digger. And I would just think that we need to seriously consider, and I would charge the proponents with, again, Steve Mello is right. We can't design the project, but this is awful big, and they have to look at some alternatives to lessen. I don't think they can eliminate it. I mean, that might be an unreasonable request, but certainly limit the degree of impact to an active managed shellfish area for the community.
Thank you, Mark. Is there anyone else that wants to be heard?
Chairman, if I could just add,
Yes.
to build on what Mark Garrett said earlier about the exposure, I may have been the only one that was there when the Wayner Pier washed up on Smith Neck Road in the early morning hours a couple of falls ago. But I'm looking at the size, again, of this structure and can only imagine what it would do to Smith Neck Road, not if, but when Mother Nature puts it there. Because in a southerly, southeasterly, this is no place to have anything, including a boat. And I have moved boats off of moorings in predicted southerlies from this area due to the force of the water coming around the break wall, straight down. The fetch is clearly across Buzzards Bay, so the waves that go in there are in the 6 to 10 foot range. And I just don't see a structure that large being anywhere but on Smith Neck Road or in the marsh behind Smith Neck Road if the tide is high enough. So that is another consideration based on the size and the location.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
One of the statutory interests of the Wetlands Protection Act is storm damage prevention. And there aren't that many piers really that are in this exposed location. So I share that concern. I was here for Hurricane Bob and I saw what happened on Smith Neck Road. So this is a very, very exposed pier, and I share the same concerns regarding storm damage prevention.
I guess without any other comments, Dave, I just think you got enough here to go back with and put on the thinking cap. But these are all very legitimate concerns in my view, and ones that I would think everyone would agree are significant. So with that, is the next meeting, which will be April 21st, is that enough time to get done what you need to get done for revisions or additional testing? Because you're talking about next week.
Yeah.
The marker. And based on that and comments you may hear, you may have to do some revisions to your plan. So is the 21st enough time, or do you want additional time?
I would think that a 1 month continuance would be more in order, or whatever that falls to.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, Karen, do we happen to have what that would be, not the second meeting after tonight's? Assuming, again, we're going to probably be doing it this way rather than in person, but
I can look it up.
yeah, because I'd like to just
No, Cinco de Mayo, that's not it.
Cinco de Mayo.
I had a meeting on that day.
Oh, I thought you were just celebrating. That's what you.
I said, all right,
Yeah, Cinco de Mayo.
let me try my regular phone. May 5th, we have a Concom meeting and May 19th. There's a Concom meeting.
David, which of those two would you prefer?
Well, looking at the schedule, either next Tuesday or Thursday, we're hoping to put the float out there. I think May 5th would be fine. I realize that we need to submit any revised plans 5 days in advance. I'd like to work with Mr. Mello to try and resolve the issues. I fully understand everything I've heard tonight. Trust me when I say I've listened. So I'd like to, I just would ask Mr. Mello, obviously I called the office. I realize you're not working out of the office. So email is fine for communication purposes, or?
Meals always preferred. That way we've got a written record and they can be answered at our convenience mutually.
Okay. So I will notify Mike and Steve when we have that float out there. And I will also communicate by email with PDFs on changes after I've spoken with my client. We'd like to know what the results are of where your closest moorings are. If you could maybe share coordinates so we could understand on our plan where we're at too, that would be helpful on our end. And I think hopefully we can come to some resolution. So with that, I would respectfully request a continuance.
Until May 5th
Until
at
May-
7 p.m.?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote. Patty Swerda,
Yes.
Richard Golan,
Yes.
Joseph Burke,
Yes.
Kelly Wilbur,
Yes.
Michael Kehoe, yes. Unanimous vote to continue this public hearing until May 5th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Thank you. That concludes the public hearings. We now move on to the items for discussion. And I guess the first is, it says bills, but then it says Conservation Commission receipts. So,
Yeah, what that is, Mr. Chair, is we had to order some receipt books that we ran out of. I accidentally threw some away. And so we had to order them, and it's a $400 bill. Now, normally we submit that to the commission, something of that size for signature. I sent Greg Barnes, our financial director, today an email regarding how we would process something that requires a signature by the Conservation Commission. I asked him whether or not, similar to the vote earlier, whether or not I could sign on behalf of the commission for something of that amount after a vote by the Conservation Commission. And so that, I haven't received an email back from Greg on that, but it is a bill that we really should get paid. It's been lingering a little bit. So I'm not sure exactly how to handle this, because normally we would get, signatures from the commission. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what Greg has to say. But if the commission could vote to pay it, and then worst we circulate the bill around by mail, or meet somewhere, which we don't really want to do necessarily, to get the signatures.
well, does it have to be an original signature? Because if not, you can send it by PDF and everyone will just say, approve or whatever, and then give Greg all of those.
And the commission voted earlier to allow for electronic signatures, so that
Yep.
very well work. I'll bring that up to Greg, to Greg Barnes as well, so we'll figure that out.
Well, I guess what we should do, though, maybe, is just vote on whether we approve it tonight, so you can give that to
Yeah,
Greg. as
yeah,
well.
definitely.
So I entertain a motion to approve the expenditure.
So moved.
Second.
Wait a minute. Yeah, we can do this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Tired of these roll calls. They take too much time.
I feel like I'm in the
Now,
city
anyway.
council of New Bedford. And then we have a chapter 61 forestry plan on Hathaway Road. And there's a parenthetical, and it's absolutely correct. Our time to respond has been extended, but are we interested?
This is potentially, yes. This is one that I've had discussions with the applicant about for a number of the owner for a number of years. And so it is the open space that would be available for donation is a fairly significant piece along the river. I also spoke with DNRT because it had been offered to DNRT a number of years ago before they even talked to the town. DNRT backed off because there was a lot of ATV problems, which I really haven't had a chance to take a look at. So I think it is something that does have potential pending the site conditions. And so I would like to keep that option, open and not vote to not exercise the option at this point because the new, I just got an email from Greg. Anyway, yeah, I think we should keep that option open and just go with the tolling of the time periods that were specified in the recent legislation.
That's fair enough. I didn't realize that you had your eye on it for a while, so I wasn't trying to conclude it. But if we weren't, I figured let the people know sooner rather than later.
Oh, and by the way, the email that I just got from Greg Barnes regarding Concom bill payment, he said, yes, I do not see a problem. I would sign your name and include the words per vote of the Conservation Commission.
There you go.
Good.
Talking about great timing. Thanks, Greg.
Wow.
He was probably, he's probably watching this meeting.
Maybe he's 1774 down here.
Yeah.
This guy hiding behind a tree. That would be Greg.
All right, we have next the Audubon letter on fencing at Conservation Commission Beach on Smith's Neck Road.
Yeah, a couple of nests of piping plovers periodically show up on the Conservation Commission beach on Smith Neck Road. And I got a letter from Audubon requesting permission to put up the exclosure fencing that they've done a couple of times in the past. So it's sort of a blanket approval that the commission has given them. I think the maximum we've ever seen there were 2, and they're not particularly big. So so this is obviously the piping plover is endangered, and they do whatever they can to try to protect the habitat of the plover. And it's also a fairly heavily used beach, more than even some. We get a lot of use on that beach, and so an exclosure fence might make sense here as well. So I mean, I support the idea, but we just needed to get the commission's feeling on that.
It seems like it's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
They did it last year. There was an explosion out there last year.
And they're temporary.
I'm in favor.
So am I.
Yep.
All right, so I'll send them a letter.
I'm in favor.
Do we need a motion? Do we need a?
Why don't we do that? Entertain a motion to, I guess, allow the Audubon's fencing at the Conservation Commission Beach on Smith Neck Road.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Hey, before we get away, I just want to thank Mark, Karen, and Lindsay for joining in on the meeting. Glad to see you guys here.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I'd like to thank everybody who made
Second
this
that.
meeting possible, because I know there was a lot of work behind the scenes to get this thing to fly. And for the inaugural voyage, we did okay.
I think we did.
Well,
Yeah,
So far,
good work,
so
Mike.
I just missed the boat. I mean, if it wasn't for Mark, we would have finished.
Yeah, Mark rescued you guys.
I'm essentially non-essential.
Mike rescued me. I'm electronically challenged.
Yeah, that was kind of fun, Joe, when we got that.
So anyway, I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's
Aye.